Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and this will be part 3 of What If Deku Had Lelouch's Powers from Code Geass. I believe last time I left off where Deku was sitting in front of the UA gates, if not during the 10 months of training, but in reality he was just expanding his empire. Now, where I'm going to start it up is where he's going to be doing the UA entrance exam, as well as the first day and maybe the Aizawa test. So as Deku was standing in front of the gates to UA, he looked up thinking that this will be fun, and maybe he can find some more people in this class to add to his group and his empire. So he walks in, and he doesn't trip, so he never meets Uraraka, but he does run into someone whenever he's walking. A tall girl with black hair, tied up in a ponytail, but the hair is just spazzing out everywhere. He takes a keen interest in her, but before he can think anything of it, he has to get to the written exam. He does good on the exam. He actually probably gets first place since lelouch is very smart, and I'm putting his same IQ in here. Then he walks in to the auditorium to sit down in a seat to listen to the rules of the combat exam. As President Mike would start explaining, Deku would just sit there and listen, so Ida doesn't get onto him. But Ida does still stand up and shout about the 0-point robot, which President Mike would tell him to sit down and he would explain it. A few minutes later, as they're walking over to the gates to do the combat exam, Deku gets a call from one of his scientists from the sub telling him that there's a little bit of an emergency with the combat armor. The Project Mark 5, the Project Mark 10, which from the last part I believe I said was a way to fight back against All Might, just if the occasion needed it. And their problem is that the hydraulic system for the legs and the arms aren't able to take as much shock and pressure as they thought it could, so they're going to need him to pick up some more from heavy machinery stores or some other places. Deku would say, fine. How much PSI pressure per hydraulic do we need? And they would say about 1,500 to about 3,000. He then said we need about 6 of them, if not about 8. Deku angrily said fine, and then hung up, and then just walked the rest of the way to the gate. The girl that he took interest in did follow him and listen to that conversation she was seeing behind, but she didn't hear on the other side of the phone. All she heard was what PSI, fine, and then just a hang up. So she took a keen interest in him, but not the way that you're thinking, yet. So as Deku was going up to the gate, he decided to walk to the front, ignoring anyone that was talking to him or that wanted to talk to him. Because in this, he had the active camo project armor on, but the helmet was off, and he didn't have it activated yet. So he just looked like, it's like the picture right now, but it's more armor plated, and the cape isn't as big, and same for the part around his head. That part is gone, and just make it more like armor plated, and that's what you have, I guess you could say. I'm not really sure. If I find a picture of some good armor online, I'll put that in the next part. But until then, he's just wearing some armor plate, like an armor plated suit with a cape. and he has the same helmet. Anyways, but he walks up to the front of the gate, and as he's about to get ready, he puts on the, or as they're all getting ready, and the gates are opening, he puts on the helmet, pushes a few buttons on his wrist, and he's disappeared. On everyone else's perspective, he's just gone. Even the teacher's point of view. But for Deku, he's just walking inside the gate while everyone's dumbfounded at a guy that just disappeared. So as Deku is walking around destroying robots, the teachers are saying that his points are going up, but he's nowhere to be found. Not even the robots can find him, and they have thermal sight to know where people are. So Deku was just going around destroying robots, as people were saying, were shouting at the back, which he couldn't hear them, that he needed to wait for the countdown, which President Mike said over the speaker that there's no countdown for villain attack, go, go, go. So everyone just ran in to get their points. Deku's still in the lead. He gets about 150 points, and he stops and just climbs up to the roof of a building, turns off his camo, and just appears for everyone on top of a roof. And he's just sitting there overwatching everything. As he's sitting there just watching everyone get their points, he looks down to see a girl trapped under rubble as a 0-point robot is about to crush her. He couldn't hear the cries for help, but he knew exactly what he needed to do. So he put on the helmet again, activated the camouflage, and just jumped off the building, landed down, and just saved her. While still invisible, so on everyone's perspective, she's just floating. And then all of a sudden, the robot decides to throw a punch right where the girl is, but unknowing to the robot that Deku's already cut off its main power supply, and he's just holding it in his hands. So the robot stops dead in its track and falls backwards, destroying several buildings in the process. Deku just turns off the invisibility and takes off the helmet as he walks out from the cloud of dust, just brushing some off his armor. As he asks the girl if she's alright, she says yes, and he says okay, and then just walks off to make a phone call. Of course, the phone call is to Jeremiah and Colleen, which he asked Colleen how how the information gathering was going. She said they ran into a problem, but they took care of it. Deku said fine. And then he asked Jeremiah how the training of the new recruits is going and if there's some new recruits. Jeremiah said yes, there's 3 new recruits. None that have interesting abilities. More like they're just more quirkless people. But I'm gonna put them to I'm gonna put them through military training programs to get their bodies more built and lean, and to give them more strength, speed, and durability. Deku said fine. Oh, that's fine. Just make sure not to kill them like you did the last group. Luckily, there was just 2 people. Jeremiah laughed and said fine. I'll just give them the practice project armor, which is just like medieval knight armor, but more padded with carbon fiber into it, making it carbon fiber steel armor. Light, strong, and durable. He said okay, and if you're giving them that, you can give them a little bit harder training, just not too hard. They can't go up against a practice mark robot yet. As he hangs up the call, sighs, and walks into a heavy machinery store to get the hydraulics for 3,000 psi. He gets about 10 of them just in case. 2 extra, just 4 extra, the 6, then the 4 extra, just in case, as he walks back to the beach, going to the little underground hideout by the beach, getting in a pod, and driving it underwater to the sub, which the girl didn't follow him, but she did watch him as he walked into the heavy machinery store. Over the week, he gets the letter, he gets accepted, and he tells everyone that he made it. Maybe we'll be able to find some interesting people in this class. Everyone's cheering and shouting, yeah, as Kaleem and Jeremiah walk up to Deku, telling him that he needs to follow them. Deku's saying, okay, as he follows them in, telling everyone else to keep partying, but not too hard, we still have work to do. The scientist saying, yeah, you got it, and the soldiers in training said, alright, let's get back to training, and all the other soldiers are saying, fine, let's go look at the weapons and the robots, see if the mark practices are ready. As Jeremiah, Kaleem, and Deku walked into the conference room, there's a random person sitting there, and it's the same girl that he took interest in. He asked why she's tied up. They said that she was following him just a little bit when he was coming back the other day from getting new supplies for the robots. Deku said okay, and he walked up to her and asked her, "Why were you following me?" She nervously said that I was just curious of what you're doing, but if you're gonna hurt me, then do it and get it over with. Deku was kinda weirded out but shocked to hear that she wanted him to hurt her, or that she was expecting it. Deku patted her on the head saying, I'm not gonna do that kind of stuff. I'm not really like that. She breathed a sigh of relief and asked, why am I even here then? Deku said, apparently you followed me. And he gets a stern look in his eye as he says, I want to know why. She said nervously that ever since the day I met you at the entrance exam, I was kind of curious on what you were doing. Deku said, with a little bit of a breath of relief, that she was just curious of what he was doing and not a spy. Deku said, fine. Do you want to stay here though? She gets happy, but then just tries to hide it, saying, I can stay here. Deku did see the kind of happiness in her face for just a split second before she tried hiding it, and asked Kaleem and Jeremiah to leave the room so he could talk to her in private. They said fine, but we'll be outside the door if you need us. He just waved him, like telling him to go, and don't worry about me. As he sits down in front of her and asks her, why were you just happy to know that you can stay here? She then just gets tears in her eyes, saying that her parents didn't like her because she had a, useless quirk compared to theirs. Deku sat there thinking, and just thinking, she had a terrible life. I can kind of relate to her, but at the same time, I have to figure this out. Deku asked what her parents' quirks were, as she would say her dad's quirk was, I'm gonna say that her dad's quirk was having the ability to create living and non-living items at will, and her mother's quirk was I'm just gonna say very strong regeneration abilities. Deku was shocked to say that Those are some pretty good abilities, but what's yours? She says creation. I can create any non-living objects using the lipids of fat in my body. Deku says, interesting. I can see why your parents would be mad at you for not having a good quirk. She puts her head down, sadly saying, yeah, I know. As Deku would say, but we don't think that here. She lifts up her head in shock, saying, what do you mean? Deku would say, here everyone has either useless abilities, good abilities, or no quirks at all. She was a little surprised to hear that he's even having quirkless people in his group. Which she then asks, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this for everyone? Deku says, I want to create a society that everyone has a fair chance to live in. No heroes, no villains, and definitely no outcasts like quirkless people. As she would say, that's a very noble idea of you. And she asks how long he's been doing this for. Deku then breaks the answer saying, 6 years. I believe. Yeah, I'll just say 6 years. She was a little surprised to hear this, and then asked him if he can join her, or if she can join him. Deku gives a little laugh and says, yes, you can join. I was actually going to be going and looking for someone that had the exact same abilities as you, but it made it easier since you came to me. Don't worry, you'll be treated as one of my higher-ups. As he calls in Jeremiah and Kaleem and says, these two will be your co-workers. As he looks in Kaleem and Jeremiah, saying, she's gonna be our third or fourth in command, right under you, Jeremiah, or right under you, Kaleem. She'll be in charge of the supplies and the mechanical air division. She says, alright, another girl on the team, let's do this. As she walks up to Momo, which that's her name if you couldn't get it. She walks up to Momo, giving her a hug and saying, welcome to the team. Momo breaking down crying, saying, thank you for giving me a better place to stay. Deku chuckles and says, alright, let's introduce you to your new division, shall we? With tears in her eye and a happy expression on her face, she says, yes. Deku walks in with Momo, Kaleem, and Jeremiah to the mechanics division as well as the supply division, saying, he says he's greeting everyone, as then he says, I have an announcement for you. As they gather everyone up and they get together, as he would say, this is your new division leader, Momo Yadirozu. As everyone would start cheering, as she would then he would look at Momo and say, give your team a little speech. They're happy to have a new division leader. They haven't had one yet, and I've been in charge of them and everyone else. So, give them a little bit of a welcome. As she would say, yes, I'll do that. As she would give everyone a nice, warm welcome, and says, she pretty much tells everyone to do what they usually do. Don't pay mind to her. She'll just be here if you need help, or if there's any problems. They all say right and yes, as then they would all just get back to work. As Deku looked at Momo and says, looks like you already got the hang of this, but now we have our problem of school. She says, yeah, how are we going to do this? Deku says, just follow my lead, everything will be fine, as long as no one discovers this. She says, okay, class starts up tomorrow, we might as well go ahead and head to the offshore house that we have that's near the school, so we can be ready. Momo's a little bit ecstatic to hear that they have another base, and yet it's close to the school. So she says fine, and her and Deku head off to the offshore house. The next day rolls around, and it's time for the first day of school and Aizawa's quirk test. Yeah, I think I have enough time for this. So as Deku and Momo walk in, they're pretty much the first ones there, so they sit down next to each other in the back, or actually no, near a window in the middle of the room. And they were just talking as Bakugo walks in, sits up near the front and puts his feet on the desk and falls asleep. As then Deku would just notice this and he'd just sigh, Momo asking what's up, as he would just point to Bakugo. She kind of chuckling, saying that he's probably going to be our troubling student, isn't he? Deku sighing, saying yes, but he does have his uses to him, especially his quirk, but he's not going to join. He's too much of an egotistical person to do so. Her saying, yeah, but I do have someone else that might join us, with the same kind of past as me. Deku asking who? She says, Shoto Todoroki. And hearing the name Todoroki puts a little bit of excitement and surprise in Deku's words next, which he says, I wonder if we can really get the number 2 hero to join, the number two hero's son to join us. Her saying he might, but it'll be a little bit hard of a persuasion. Deku says, I got this. I'll leave Kaleem and her team to get him back to the sub, especially tonight. She says, just try not to make it a kidnapping. Deku says, no promises. A few minutes later, everyone walks in. The girl that he saved was in a different class, so she didn't get to thank him. As Aizawa would pop up saying it took you 8 seconds to be quiet. Get your uniforms on, we're going outside. As everyone was complaining but Deku and Momo, as they would just stand up and walk to the locker room to get their uniforms. Everyone just stopped and followed their lead because they just wanted to get this over with, but everyone else was just thinking that they're probably going to be the best 2 students. As Deku was sitting in the locker room, Mineta does his thing, where he's trying to peek through the hole, as Deku would ask Mineta to look at him real quick, as he would look at Mineta straight in the eyes, as he would command Mineta to get ready and go outside, and after you go outside, slap yourself in the face and telling yourself you're a bad person. Mineta doing exactly as he was told. Everyone's shocked and asking what his quirk is. Deku putting his finger up to his mouth, shushing him, saying it's a secret. Everyone gets a little excited, and they all head out to the testing grounds after they're done. With Mineta just staying there with a red slap on his face from his hands, as he's just sitting there with tears in his eyes thinking why he did that. Deku getting a little laugh out of it, and so did some of the others, because they don't really like perverts, and Mineta's a big one. So as everyone was just sitting there, and Aizawa was giving his explanation, he throws the ball to Bakugo, saying to throw it because you had highs. No, he gave it to Deku to throw it because he had the highest score. Deku threw it with brute strength alone and got 367 meters. Everyone was shocked, and Aizawa asked him what his quirk was. Deku said it's not strength. This strength alone was just from physical training. Aizawa thinking to himself, what kind of physical training do you have to do to be able to throw that far? And in all of the tests, Deku got about 3rd or 4th, putting him in about 5th place on the test total, and Mineta being last, which Mineta gets expelled, and Kendo moves up to 1A. After the day, Momo and Deku are walking together talking, as Mineta gets jealous seeing this, as Deku would just walk to the offshore, to the home base they have on land, walking in and then going and just sitting down on the couch, saying that it was an exhausting day. Momo saying yes, but don't you have a conference call today? As Deku said yes, and he gets a serious look on his face, saying, I guess it's about time we figured out what these heroes are planning. And that's where I'm going to leave it off. I'm probably going to do another part of What If Deku is a Technopath, but I'm not sure yet. I may stop that series, and I have another series idea I'm coming up with, which will be coming out either next week or sometime in this week. But look forward to it, and I'll just go ahead and say a little hint. It's going to be an apocalypse type scenario, and I have another person giving me the ideas for it. So it's going to be a kind of a collab with me, with him, but until then, it's going to be a little bit of a surprise. And also, I'd like to thank everyone that subbed and commented and liked the series that I've been making. The Garo series will be getting a redo soon, but if no one wants a redo on it, I'll leave it. The Apocalypse series I'm thinking of will come out soon, and another part of the series will be coming out probably not tomorrow, but the day after, so look forward to that. And I'll leave you guys off on a have a good day, and hope you guys like the series. Bye.